Can I tell you something? Can I? Okay, listen closely. Most of your decisions are governed by your emotions. Of course it is, you're human. Let's talk about it. Emotional mastery is one of the most important subjects that I feel like is not talked about enough. And in this video, I'm going to cover everything you need to know about your emotions and how to master them, and the core tenets you need to focus on to make this extremely efficient for you as possible. Emotions aren't something that you master overnight, but through time you get better at it. Now, I want to preface this video by saying that your emotions are here to guide you in life. You have obviously emotions that are hard to experience, negative emotions, and then you have the more positive emotions that you like to experience. Both are here to guide us. The emotion of fear, for example, is very much a survival-based emotion. When you're out in the wilderness and you see some sort of bear or something come out of nowhere, you're gonna feel fear. Your body's helping you to survive. You feel the fear and you're in fight or flight mode to escape. The problem with fear, though, is in our modern society, we constantly are experiencing fear when there's nothing that's a direct threat to us. Our bodies, our minds are in constant alert mode, right? And that's something that's really affecting a lot of people when it comes to living a better life. Emotions can help us with thrival as well, not just survival, but also thrival. Right? When we want to thrive and we want to have a better life, we experience higher vibration emotions in order to be in the right state to attract whatever we want or to go towards the things we want. So our emotions can either be a hindrance to us or it can help us. And in this video, I'm going to break down ways for you to make sure that your emotions are helping you more so than hurting you. First, let's start with what happens when you don't have emotional mastery. You end up reliving the same situations. The same problems that you have in life continue to occur because you're feeling the same emotions, which are linked to the same thoughts, which are linked to the same actions, right? So you start reliving the same situations. You keep getting the same results that you don't want. Also, when you don't work on emotional mastery, you can develop damaged relationships. Maybe your relationships can have just poor communication because either party isn't aware of the opposing party's current emotional states. If you're not aware of how you come across, then when you communicate, you can come off very aggressive, you can come off unconfident, you can come off aloof. All of these things play a role when you don't look into mastering your emotions or at least getting better. Let's look at the benefits of emotional mastery. For one, you can see emotional manipulation very quickly because you're already in tune with how you feel, and you can see through how people are using your emotions against you. Understand your emotions and you understand the intent better of the other person. Next, you uncover your biases. You develop a self-awareness where you can understand what you're biased towards and what you're biased against and how that is affecting you emotionally. Manifest what you want faster. Part of bringing forth your desired life is truly being in tune with your emotions and feeling the emotion before you get that desire. That's what the law of assumption touches on, is feeling it first before it comes to you. Because when you feel it, it feels more real and you start thinking, acting in ways that are in alignment with your goal. You break through life plateaus. Earlier I mentioned when people aren't mastering themselves emotionally, they keep experiencing the same things over and over and over again. It's because they're feeling the same things, thus they're thinking based off those feelings, and then they're acting based off those feelings, and it becomes this program that repeats itself. But when we master our emotions, we can break through that. Improving interpersonal relationships, of course. Improving your relationship with yourself, very important. Bettering the mind and body connection. You can understand how your thoughts are affecting the body, how the body is affecting your thoughts. So let's define emotions. Emotions are complex states involving both physical and psychological changes that in turn influence our mood and behavior. An emotion is sparked by a particular event or object, which causes a physiological response in the body. Both happiness and sadness can make us cry. Fear makes our heart race. Anger makes us feel hot. Then we change our behavior in accordance with the emotion. We might hug someone, run away, or yell and fight. The behavior stage is the point at which emotional mastery plays a role. When you know how to master your emotions, you can catch them before they affect your behavior. So that was defining emotions and the benefits of emotional mastery as well. So let's start off very simple. When we look at the main pillar under emotional mastery that we first need to focus on, one of the most important things is emotional intelligence, okay? So we have emotional mastery, and now we have emotional intelligence. And the definition of emotional intelligence is the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions. Pretty plain and simple. Now, under emotional intelligence are four core pillars for you to know about. These are very important. So let's recap here. We have emotional mastery. Under that, we have emotional intelligence. And then emotional intelligence has four core pillars that we need to focus on when it comes to mastering ourselves. Harvard Business School Online says, quote, emotional intelligence is typically broken down into four core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. We're gonna go through the four. Let's start with self-awareness. Quote, self-awareness is your ability to perceive and understand the things that make you who you are as an individual, including your personality, actions, values, beliefs, emotions, and thoughts. It's really you taking a look at yourself, look at the ego, and looking at how this ego comes across, how it comes across just in general. It's very important for us to constantly have a magnifying glass on ourselves and to watch ourselves, take notes on ourselves, and understand why we do the things that we do. For example, you can say, I notice that I do X when Y happens. When this thing occurs, this is what I do. Another example is, I notice I react this way when this person in my life does this, but when someone else does the same thing, I react differently. So when you say things like, I notice this about myself, I notice this, I notice that, now your brain is starting to work and saying, oh, I am doing this when this happens, I'm doing this when that happens. It really starts the process of emotional mastery because you're beginning with where you are right now. You want to have better control over your emotions. Well, it starts with the awareness. David Goggins says, the most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you'll have with yourself. I love that quote. We aren't just looking at the outside world anymore. We're looking at ourselves. We're not just blaming the outside world for our own behavior. This person made me feel like, no, that arose from you. This person did this. Now I am acting like this. It's arising from me. Why is it arising from me? Another thing with self-awareness is not only looking at what you say, but how you say it. When you say something, are you saying it in a way that's appropriate for this certain situation? I mean, how a school teacher would talk to someone compared to a drill sergeant are two different ways, right? Two different tones, even if they're saying the same thing. But the context is different. One is at a military base, one is in a classroom. I can say to you, can you go get it? But I could also say to you, can you go get it? I said the same words, but there are two different energies in those sentences. The second sentence, which is the same sentence as the first, probably just had an emotional pull on you because of how I said it, not just what I said. Now I'm aware that my second sentence was more aggressive. Now with the self-awareness, I can be like, why was I just aggressive right now? So that's just an example. Next, the second pillar when it comes to emotional intelligence, which is a subsector of emotional mastery, self-management. Quote, self-management refers to the ability to manage your emotions, particularly in stressful situations, and maintain a positive outlook despite setbacks. Self-management is basically the action behind the awareness that you just did. So for example, me just telling you that my second sentence came off aggressive. Now my self-management would be, okay, when I communicate, I need to communicate in a way where the emotion doesn't affect the communication. Because what I want to get across is, can you go get it? But what I'm getting across is, I'm angry at you, can you go get it? So now I need to regulate myself. So there are techniques that we'll have later in this video that you can apply for self-management that will really help with that. With self-management, it's you taking the action towards which you've just been privy to, which is the self-awareness. Next, social awareness. Social awareness describes your ability to recognize others' emotions and the dynamics in play. Social awareness is very important because us as humans, we're social creatures. We interact with each other constantly, whether it's a stranger, a friend, a family member. So when we're able to develop keen emotional intelligence, we're able to speak to people well, and we're able to read the room, and we're able to make connections, make friends, and it can even help with your career. Right? A lot of employers really value high emotional intelligence, and one of those pillars there is social awareness. So things like reading social cues. When you're speaking to someone on a new subject, they're starting to dart their eyes a bit the other direction. It means you're losing their focus. Maybe it's a subject they don't care about. And depending on the situation, maybe you want to start talking about something they care about. And then from there, they're really interested in the conversation again. Quick tip. If you want to start talking about something people care about, just talk about them. Trust me, it's going to work. Another thing with social awareness is how you feel in social interactions. How are you feeling when you're around other people? How are you feeling when you're at a party? How are you feeling when you're at a stadium concert or something? How are you feeling when you're in a car with just your closest friends, right? Be aware of the social elements of your emotions. And then there's relationship management. How are your emotions affecting your relationships, either positively or negatively? How are you improving your relationships by being aware of how you come across? And this also touches again on communication. Are you communicating clearly in a way that other person can understand? Are you understanding where they're coming from? Also, when they're giving you feedback on things, how are you reacting? Do you get angry? Do you get defensive? In my teenage years, a big thing that I had to work on was not getting so defensive when people would give me feedback of some kind, right? Especially based on my behavior. I would get defensive. My ego would get in the way. I had to work on that. And now there's a difference between speaking from your heart, right? And having conviction behind your voice and just using your emotions and being unconscious about how your emotions are. A big thing with relationship management is understanding where you're coming from and where the other person is coming from. And also seeing which ways can you meet their needs. If it's a relationship of yours or your marriage of yours, seeing where you can meet their needs and where they can meet your needs. And then if there's a gap there, then, figuring out how both of you can fill that gap or wherever that gap is. Those were the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. Now, we're going to get into a bit more nuances when it comes to emotional mastery. Some of these solutions may touch on some of the things I just covered, but a lot of them do touch on new topics. Also, there are going to be some techniques that really help with your emotional mastery. First key solution: understand emotional reaction versus emotional prolongment. When you get offended by something, the reaction is being offended. No worries. Now, how long are you offended? In my other video, Emotional Addictions, I talked about brooding, where people just stay on the same topic, keep talking about it, keep feeling it, and they keep reliving it. Is that what you're doing? That's what prolongment is. It's basically brooding over something. And you're staying on that vibration, you're staying at that frequency of being upset. Just because you react doesn't mean you have to stay in that reaction. That reaction is there. It's an opportunity to tell you something about yourself, about how something made you feel. Okay, cool. Depending on the situation, it's not the best time to be fixated on the reaction. Let's say somebody egged your house, for example, and you're angry about that. Your initial reaction is, I'm mad that someone egged my house. Rightfully so, I'd be mad too. I'd be like, who egged my house? We're gonna go find them. Just kidding. You gotta be peaceful. But your initial reaction is anger. Now, how would it serve you for you to be angry throughout the whole day? Maybe your anger is telling you to maybe take some sort of action of some kind. Maybe clean your house. Maybe ask a neighbor what happened. But if you're just in anger all day, that's not gonna serve you, right? You don't wanna prolong the anger, because if you prolong the anger, it's gonna be easier and easier for you to stay at that vibration, just keep reliving the anger. And then a month later, someone reminds you, remember that guy that egged your house, dude? And you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I remember that. That really pissed me off, And then you relive the same feeling that you had that day, right? Because you prolonged it, the body took it so seriously then. It's very important that we analyze our emotions before we get consumed by it. We want to be curious about our emotions. Why am I feeling this way? Where am I feeling it in my body? Someone did this, why am I feeling like that? Be curious, be almost like a detective, like Sherlock Holmes or something. I think body awareness really helps with your ability to not let the emotion prolong. When you do this, you start coming out of the ego character and you start just watching yourself. You start watching the body, you start watching the mind. You start watching how your heart beats faster. You start watching how your head gets hot. You start watching how you start tensing up or you start sweating a little bit. You start approaching it, you start analyzing it. Now, some situations this may be really hard because emotions are so fast and they can consume you. But the more you practice at this, the better. Next, embrace stoicism. There are 2 stoic virtues that I think are very important for you to know about when it comes to emotional mastery. Number 1 is temperance, controlling yourself and just balance in general. Understanding the extremes, the ups and the downs of life. But with temperance, you're kind of in the middle. You're able to appreciate and integrate both extremes in life, both extremes of emotional spectrums, where you have joy and then you have fear. Another stoic virtue is courage. A very important thing I want you to remember from this video, and I want you to do, is to always face yourself at all times, no matter what. Don't try to just bury your emotions down. Don't try to distract yourself all the time. Face yourself. And I understand when certain situations occur, maybe distracting yourself a little bit helps. Maybe as a defense mechanism. It could kind of help for the time being, but that's just for the time being. You distract yourself with maybe social media, you distract yourself with a show that you like, cool. But then it's time to face yourself. You face yourself, and then things get better. And that's where the courage comes in. You have to have the courage to face yourself. It's a very important stoic virtue. And I think stoicism is a very important aspect of emotional mastery, because we have to have the ability to endure the emotion, because if it just consumes us, then there's no mastery, right? Think about someone that's raising a pet. If he doesn't teach the pet certain lessons and how to act and all of that, the pet is just going to take over. It's just going to grow up and do whatever it wants, because it hasn't been conditioned. The pet just gets worse and worse through time. Same with your emotions. If you haven't been facing them, you're going to be just so unconscious that you're not going to realize what you've become due to those hidden emotions that you haven't been either processing or been aware of. Here's a quote from Kobe when it comes to courage. Everything negative, pressure, challenges is all an opportunity for me to rise. I love that mindset. No matter what, view it as a signal for you to rise to the occasion. Next, identify the true emotion behind it. Sometimes we have emotions that we're experiencing, but really it's an emotion that's hiding a deeper one that we don't want to experience. In my emotional addiction video, I talked about this. So for example, someone can feel angry, but they're actually hurt. They're hurt by something. Someone close to them said something negative about them. They could be very angry, but truly they're actually hurt that person would say something like that. Another thing is someone could be jealous that someone they like is hanging out with someone else. But the emotion there is actually fear, like fear of maybe losing that connection. Next, analyze your influences and what you've normalized, especially in childhood, right? Look at your upbringing, look at your parents. How did your parents react to situations? Because I bet you probably picked up on some of those things. We come in as blank slates in this world, and we just ping off our environment, and our environment is our parents, our family, and how they react to situations is typically how we'll think should be the way we should react to things, right? How did your mom or dad react to stress? How did your mom and dad react to positive feelings, right? When something great has happened for the family, did your dad buy everybody, gifts and all of that? That positive emotion, maybe you equate positive things to gift giving of some kind, or buying yourself something. When we're aware of our influences in our environment, we start to understand why we act how we act. And this doesn't have to just be family, it can be your friends, etc. Now let's get into techniques that help with emotional mastery, but also just emotional balance. Number one, there are a lot of yoga poses out there that really help with emotional balance. I'm actually going to leave a link in the description box to some yoga poses that you can practice for this. You can check that out after you finish this video. Here's a quote on yoga. Quote, even subconscious emotions can take on a physical form and have physical symptoms, like how you hang your head when you feel ashamed, or you open your chest and throw up your arms when you feel happy or excited. Your emotions have certain physical correlations. Therefore, just changing your posture can help release negative emotions. That's really cool. Another one, if you're looking to release those emotional blocks, try practicing yoga and meditation. Sitting in uncomfortable yoga postures and finding stillness within them offers the entire body a chance to release emotional blockages, stagnant energy, and lingering tension. Those are great quotes on yoga. When it comes to meditation, I could definitely recommend body scan meditation. It's very simple. You just lay down, you close your eyes, and you envision a horizontal laser just scanning your body up and down, and you focus on that laser. Where you're maybe feeling a lot of anxiety one day, you can really do these techniques and it'll really help you out. And when you're consistent with it, it makes major changes. Another technique I like is diaphragmatic breathing. This is just breathing through your diaphragm. It really helps you breathe nice and deeper. Basically, you're breathing through your stomach rather than your chest. It's a pretty simple technique and it really helps. I like it. Understand that you're not the mind or body. I think this is a very important spiritual principle to take in. You have the mind and the body, which you are awareness in mind and body form, but you're not the mind or body. So what the mind and body is doing isn't you. The emotions are not you. You're experiencing the emotions. The thoughts, they're not you. You're experiencing the thoughts. You can't control 100% of the thoughts you're experiencing, but you can manage them. You can reframe them. You can watch them as the witness. Your body, you can feel your emotions and not identify with them. Think of it like a roller coaster. You're on the roller coaster riding the roller coaster, the emotion. The emotion is the roller coaster. You're not the roller coaster. You're the rider on the roller coaster. So you're experiencing the emotion, a lot of twists and turns, ups and downs as it goes. Sometimes your emotions are very fast and aggressive. Other times it may slow down. It may be more chill and calm, but you're experiencing it. And then when you master your emotions, what starts to happen is you're not just the rider of the emotion and witnessing it, but you're also the conductor, the person that basically is controlling the ride. You're that person now. You don't have 100% control over all your emotions at all times, but you can easily dissect when your emotions are getting in the way. It becomes easier for you to get out of bad moods. It becomes easier for you to stay in the elevated states of high frequency emotions, and life becomes very beautiful. And I want to leave you with this: emotional mastery leaves you with a lot of options. Your ability to be around different people, different environments, and all these types of things, it expands. Things don't trigger you as quickly anymore. And when things trigger you, in the rare instance that things do trigger you, you're still centered. You can manage it, you can reframe it, you can watch it, because you've mastered your emotions. You can face your emotions too when life gets difficult. You can face it head on. You can adapt to almost anything. Your environment, you can be anywhere. You almost become like a raven. Ravens can live in practically any climate. They're amazing birds, they're very powerful. They're one of my favorite birds. Here's actually a quote I want to leave you with when it comes to why I just made that comparison to a raven. Quote, evolutionary speaking, the deck is stacked in the raven's favor. They can live in a variety of habitats, from snow to desert to mountains to forests. They are scavengers with a varied diet that includes fish, meat, seeds, fruit, carrion, and even garbage. I don't want you to get lost in what the raven does. That's not the point of this quote. I want you to look at how adaptable the raven is, because it has so much control over what it can do, because it has so much control over itself, right? It's very intelligent. It can be here, it can be there, it can eat this, it can eat that. Going back to emotions, when we're able to master them, we can be around more different types of people. We can go after our goals more. There's less fear when we try new things. There's less neurotic thoughts that go, right? And even when the neurotic thoughts happen, we watch it, because we've mastered our emotions. So now you're living a life of expansion rather than retraction. You're more expansive. Environmentally speaking, you can be anywhere. There's no social anxiety at the party. There's no anxiety talking to the girl or guy you're interested in. There's no issue communicating with others. None of that's happening.